Shalom, everybody. This is a part 3 to the True Religion of Evil. It is recommended that you have seen both parts 1 and 2 of this series before watching this video. This video is in the form of an interview. In the past 2 videos, many of the mysteries that were revealed and expounded upon came from this book here called Moach Gan Eden, The Brain of the Garden of Eden by the Chief Magician of Mystery, Babylon. And in this video, I was able to obtain time to interview him and ask him questions regarding the Frankist and Sabbatian ideology and practices. To say the very least, the entire cosmological structure was eventually revealed by the end of the interview. That being said, it is of a very mature nature and therefore is certainly not fitting for everybody. It deals with many profound, deep concepts and that are taboo and definitely heretical. This being said, this interview was arranged as an assemblage of questions mainly derived from various comments in between the last 2 videos, as well as a few questions of my own in order to help flesh and bring out what the actual ideology is here. Therefore, in this video, as I'm interviewing, I take a very backseat approach and allow him to explain the concepts and theological understandings from the Frankist perspective. And instead of trying to interject or correct or disagree with any of the things that are being said, many of which are shocking to say the very least, I took an approach to allow him to simply expound and explain for you, the viewers, to be able to understand their ideology, their way of thinking from the perspective of a Frankist. So with that being said, it is encouraged to watch this interview all the way till the very end. At the very end of this interview, there is an explosive revelation that reveals the actual cosmological structure and purpose of the Frankists. So without further ado, let us begin. Of the breach, and I have with me again the Chief Magician of Mystery, Babylon. He's the author of Moach Gan Eden and many other saphers. So I'd like to just kind of give him the platform to speak on a lot of the matters. And so with that being said, I'll let you go ahead and take the floor.
Yeah, thank you, Yura, for that. And so I also have to say that I was very surprised that Yura revealed what he revealed in the past 2 videos, right? He's revealing Frankist mysteries, of the highest order. And, I guess I could say that, me and Yura are a bit at odds. Yura, he's very passionate, very excited about the holy mysteries, as I am. But I think what the difference between me and Yura is that Yura wants to you want to shout out the mysteries from the rooftop, from the rooftops. I've taken a different approach recently where I'm much more of a concealed private person, and I'm all about concealing the mysteries now rather than revealing them. So I was really surprised how much Yura revealed. And so that's why we're doing this, this third part is we're trying to provide some more explanation and clarity, on these very profound sublime revelations that Yura has revealed in the last two videos. And, one thing I want to mention is, that it's understood in Gnosticism as well as in Frankism, the very clear antinomian essence and nature of the Mashiach. And we see this very clearly in the New Testament and the Gospels. And I would say that Orthodox Christians in general don't have a full holistic understanding of the antinomian essence and nature of the Mashiach. And this is a very, very deep, very, very secret, occult, concealed, very sublime subject. And it would take way too long to fully get into, and it's not something I want to fully get into in this video. Although I do have a few videos on my channel that do dive a bit deep into this matter. But what is important to understand is that there is this very powerful antinomian nature to the Mashiach and to his Torah. And that's where that then ties in to the mysteries that you're revealed in the previous two clips, where we see this very profound antinomian essence and nature of the higher universes. And we understand that the Mashiach, right, he is rooted in the highest universes, right, which are completely antinomian with respect to our construct. And that's why his law is antinomian. And that's why he himself is antinomian, because at some point it's going to be his duty to bring down the higher universes into this construct. Okay. And, and so that ties into the perversion of what we see with a lot of elite, occult orders. Now, I'm not going to say, I don't want people to think that a lot of these very profane, evil occultists are so highly initiated that they understand what Yura has revealed in the past two videos, because the reality of the situation is that the vast majority of profane occultists, as evil as they are, at the end of the day, the vast majority are very stupid and ignorant and uninitiated, and I can guarantee you that they have no understanding of the mysteries that we revealed in the last two videos, right? That understanding would be reserved for like the 0.0001% of the Luciferian elite, okay? We're talking a handful of people here, okay? I can count them on my fingers, okay? So Jakob Frank has this very powerful, great teaching where when he's discoursing on the antinomian nature of the Mashiach and his law, he reprimands a number of his disciples and other people who got ahead of themselves and started to become very antinomian, right? And so you can, in a way, see this as a lot of these occultists are getting ahead of themselves. We're not at a dispensation where the Mashiach has come and his antinomian Torah is in place. We're not at that dispensation yet. It has not come, right? The Mashiach ben David has not arrived yet. And so people are getting ahead of themselves. And that's what Jakob Frank in one of his great teachings talks about. They're getting ahead of themselves. And he says, you're very stupid. He reprimands these people who do this as being very stupid and very ignorant. You don't get ahead of yourselves. We're not there yet, right? This is what we see with the transgenderism movement right now. Why are so many people becoming transgender, right? Well, when you understand the nature and essence of the highest universes, right, you understand that all of the entities in the spiritual realms and the higher universes are mostly transgender. They're bisexual. And so when this is understood, right, there's a superiority. The higher spiritual entities and gods are superior to us, right? And one of the features of their superiority is that they are bisexual. To be bisexual and transgender is superior to just being one gender, right? Plato talks about this, in one of his books, right? And it's understood by very high level. This is an understanding by the highest level of occultists who have very advanced spiritual knowledge. They understand this and they know this, right? And so, of course, it would be great if we could be transgender, right? But the transgenderism that we are seeing right now is artificial. It's completely artificial. It is not natural. It is not organic, right? And that's why it's very inferior, evil, and wrong, okay? But people, we're all spiritual, right? All of us, every single person has a spirit. So this movement of transgenderism is just a tapping into the subconscious spiritual nature of ourselves, understanding. I mean, clearly transgender people They don't know this. They don't know about the higher universes and the spiritual essence of the higher universes and the spiritual essence of the highest gods. They have no understanding of this. And yet we see them, we see that they have this push to become transgender, not fully understanding why they want to be transgender, right? And so it's like this subconscious spiritual push that we're seeing, so to speak, right? But it's not proper. It's not correct, right? And the issue is, right, the reason that we cannot get ahead of ourselves, right, in bringing down the highest universes to our construct is because the Klippa is a very powerful force that exists in our construct. Our entire construct is completely enveloped in the Klipoth and the Klippa. This is one of the highest mysteries that I've revealed throughout my teachings, and I think your has recently revealed. And so because of the Klippa, we can't do this, right? So let's talk about, pedophilia, for example, right? Incest pedophilia, right? A father wants to have sex with his daughter, right? We know that this type of stuff goes on in the higher constructs, but it's not literal, right? When we say these, when the Lurianic Kabbalah is expounding on these very divine, sublime processes that are occurring in the higher universes, right? It's not a one-to-one um, uh, um, it's not a one-to-one. I just lost the word I'm trying to look for. It's not a one-to-one correspondence. Okay, we understand these processes parabolically because the spiritual higher universes are very, very different than our construct. We cannot understand them literally. That is complete foolishness and stupidity. Okay, but to go with the example, if a father is an attempt to replicate what's going on in the higher universe and wants to have sex with his daughter, right? You can't do that because of the Klippa, right? If you do that, the daughter is going to come out very severely damaged. You're going to damage the daughter extensively, okay, with multiple personality disorder, satanic ritual abuse, all that stuff. It's very abusive. It's extremely damaging to do that to the daughter. Why? Why is the daughter, why is it that if the father has sex with his daughter, the daughter then becomes so ridiculously physically and spiritually and emotionally damaged? It's because of the Klippa. The intermediary is the Klippa. The Klippa is what prevents prevents a father being able to have sex with his daughter in a completely holy, natural way, as it would say happen in the higher universes. It's because of the Klippa. The Klippa still exists, right? And so these occultists that are engaging in these very evil acts, right? They're not successful. They're not successful because of the Klippa. They do not have the power to break the Klippa. They don't have the power to break the Klippa. Okay. And the proof is that a lot of occultists, right, they want to do these evil acts, right? But how many of them are willing to have sex with their mother or to have homosexual sex with their father? They're not. They won't do that. Why won't they do that? Because of the Klippa. Sure, they'll want to have sex with their daughter. They'll want to be homosexual and commit all these evil acts, but have sex with their mother, have sex with their father, with their aunt. They won't. They're repelled from doing that because of the Klippa. That's the proof that the Klippa exists and it prevents them from going all out. It's because of the Klippa, right? But now let's talk about the Mashiach. The Mashiach is a divine figure. If the Mashiach wants to commit an antinomian act, he can break the Klippa. He has the power to break the Klippa. Understand this. The Mashiach can be antinomian. He has the power to be completely antinomian as he desires because he has the power to break the Klippa. But we humans do not have the power to break the Klippa. I cannot have sex with my daughter because I can't break the Klippa. Because of the Klippa, I will be doing great evil to my daughter if I do that. So this is what needs to be understood. But I'll take it back to you, Yura, if there's anything you want to add.
The purported acts of Jakob Frank and Chabtai Tzvi. I know that the incident with Tzvi and the Arab child, a lot of people have a lot of questions as to what the nature of that was. There was a small clip that was played in part 2, but that story has also appeared in a couple of other places. There's been some other major YouTube channels that have talked about it, and you're talking about the antinomian nature of the Mashiach. Could you possibly?
So let me talk about that. So first of all, there's a lot of among the highest Shabbatains and Frankists. There's a bit of a division on that matter because some believe that this did not occur, and some believe that it did occur. And actually, this matter is one of the highest and greatest secrets, that's very concealed. A lot of people don't like to talk about it because it's a deals with very, very lofty, sublime mysteries that most people, don't have the requisite SQ, or the spiritual quotient and IQ, to fully understand. And it can be, revealing these mysteries can be very, very dangerous, right? As we've already stated, right? Just look at all the profane occultists who perverted these mysteries by starting to engage. Like, let's say I reveal these. Let's say the revelations that Yura has revealed in the last two videos. Let's say that they are taught and revealed to some very profane, occultists, right? You can see how they, in their stupidity and their ignorance, they could pervert these mysteries and teachings and start engaging in very profane, evil acts to try to mirror the upper universes, right? That constitutes a very great perversion of these mysteries, right? And so that's why it's very, very dangerous. That's why these mysteries have been concealed for thousands of years, because they're very dangerous to reveal, right? And so if we talk about, Shabbatai Zvi having, homosexual relations with a young boy, well, actually, like I said, this is one of the highest, greatest mysteries. It actually ties to some of the highest secret mysteries, um, dealing with Yeshu, or Jesus, that are not very well known. But I'll go back to the example that I gave, right, to understand this. So to understand this, right, I said, what is preventing me? What is preventing us, or me? Let's say I have a daughter. What's preventing me from having sex with my daughter, right? As I stated earlier, there's a klippa, right? I don't have the power. I'm not divine enough. None of us are fully divine to the level of the Mashiach where we can break the klippa to properly have sex with our daughter. Because of the klippa, I can't have sex with my daughter, because if I do, I'm gonna irreparably damage her in so many ways. Okay, you can go out there and you can see there's lots of testimonials of women who were raped, and who were raped and had sex with their fathers, and there's a lot of testimonials that you can go on YouTube or whatever, and they'll tell you, just you can see just how irreparably damaged they are, just how much damage has been done to them because of these horrific, horrible, evil acts, right? And why? It's because of the klippa. Because of the klippa. Now, let's say I'm the Mashiach, right? If I'm the Mashiach, I have the power to break that klippa. So then, if I have the power to break the klippa and I have sex, if I'm the Mashiach and I have sex with a young boy, because I have the power to break the klippa, I can have sex with a young boy. We can both enjoy it, and the young boy will be perfectly well, perfectly good. No damage, no evil has been done to him, because the Mashiach has the power to break the klippa. This is why the Mashiach can engage in any antinomian. He's God in the flesh. The Mashiach, you have to understand, the Mashiach is God in the flesh. God can do anything. You read the Torah where the Israelites are asking, they were stupid, like, can God build a table in the wilderness? God can do anything. He's God. If God comes in the flesh, if he wants to have sex with a young boy, he can do it. And the young boy will be perfectly fine and perfectly okay, because he has the power to break the klippa. But again, these are very sublime esoteric matters that I'm afraid most of you listening don't have the full SQ and IQ to fully comprehend.
So to help draw out the understanding. So essentially, what you're saying is that what was being described is that the Mashiach has the ability to nullify the klippa, and so then therefore the act between Shabtai Tzvi and the Arab boy was actually a tikkun. That's what he was insinuating, and what you're expounding here is that because the Mashiach is capable of engaging in these antinomian activities without the klippa being attached to it, what Shabtai Tzvi was doing with the Arab boy was a tikkun, because
So what happens is, because he has the power to break the klippa, that act can then serve as a tikkun. So now he has the power to actually do tikkunim, which have to do with breaking the klipoth. So that act, if the Mashiach decides to have homosexual sex with a young boy, right, he can do it because he could break the klippa, and then because of that, it can then become a very powerful tikkun that manifests, in this construct.
So you explained earlier that the klippa is the force that's preventing these types of antinomian type of activities that are occurring. And so you're saying that the Mashiach actually breaks the klippa by being able to engage in these types of tikkuns without the klippa being able to harm or cause the damages that you were explaining for, if a layman were to have engaged in those types of antinomian activities.
Correct.
Because of the
He can break the klippa, right? It's the klippa. The klippa is what causes all of the evil and damage, that happens when a prohibited evil act takes place or an antinomian act takes place, right? And the Mashiach has the power to break the klipot. He's divine. He's God in the flesh, so he can supersede. He can transcend all the laws of the construct. He can bend, transcend, and break all the laws of the construct because he's God in the flesh. God can do anything, right? You have to understand this,
So there's two points. So the incident that talking about Yeshu, you're referring to the incidents when he gets arrested from the garden and there's a boy that runs off naked with a cloth, correct?
Correct. So there are the highest, most initiated Gnostics, right, will teach that Yeshu engaged in homosexual activity. And he could do so because he's the Mashiach, he's God in the flesh. He can break the klippa, Now, your average Christian who is exceedingly beyond ignorant on the highest mysteries will consider what I've just said and these teachings to be complete, utter heresy of the highest order, right? And that's understandable,
I see. Okay. And so the incident and the aspect that was being taught there in the clip regarding the connection between these two, because that clip actually opens up in reference to Yeshu performing this antinomian act, and then talks about Shabtai Tzvi performing the antinomian act, and he mentions that he takes male and female upon himself. Could you expound that type of the magical operation, or the maybe I shouldn't say it's a magical operation, but perhaps the theurgic process of what that is entailing?
So, right, we say that the Mashiachim are bisexual because they're divine beings, right? So, right, it was taught in secret circles, right, that Shabbatai Tzvi was secretly a woman, right? That's one of the most famous teachings. Among the highest Shabbatains, it was known and it was taught that Shabbatai Tzvi was a woman. He was secretly a woman, but everyone saw him as a man. But again, it alludes to the bisexual nature of divinity, because in the spirit realm, as I said earlier, and I have a video, right? I have a recent video that I just published on some of the advanced spiritual technology that we are seeing emerge before us, right now with quantum computing and AI. And I explain, right, in the video, right, that in the higher constructs, right, the entities, the gods are bisexual in nature. The Mashiach, being one of the highest gods, is bisexual in nature. This is what we see with Yeshu, right? If you look at ancient drawings of Yeshu, you will see him portrayed as a woman. You will see him have feminine features on his face. He has long hair. Why did the ancients portray Yeshu as with very soft feminine features, like a woman? Because it comes from the ancient Christian Gnostics, who knew that Yeshu was secretly a woman, that the Mashiach is really, because at the highest level, one of the highest and greatest of all arcana, the highest and greatest arcanum, and I'm not too comfortable revealing it here, is that the Mashiach in all truth is a woman, not a man. This is one of the highest arcanums. I don't want to fully expand upon it here, but that's what we're dealing with here. So, does that answer your question, Yura, or did that answer your question, or do I need to speak more on the matter?
I think it laid definitely a platform to better understand the thought processes and the things that are actually occurring. If you'd like to expound more on the matter, I'm pretty sure most people's mouths are probably on the floor, jaw dropped. Feel free to certainly expound any other points, and And there are definitely some other questions that I'd certainly love to hear your opinion on. And
The verse that is cited to what I said in regards to the highest arcanum, right, is in Proverbs. I think it's chapter 3, verse 18. I could be wrong. But in Proverbs, it states, she is the tree of life. Now, if you ask any religious person, especially any Christian, who is the tree of life, they'll tell you it's the Mashiach. It's Jesus. But no, the tree of life, yes, the tree of life is the Mashiach. But in Proverbs, it doesn't say he is the tree of life. It says she is the tree of life. Understand, consider this very, very wisely. But go ahead, continue here. What's your next question?
so Shabtai Tzvi was engaging in these types of tikkuns. Did Jacob Frank also perform these types of tikkuns, or was his mission separate or different, or how is it?
Because Jacob Frank is a Gilgul of Yeshu and the Mashiach ben Yosef, he absolutely engaged in the same tikkunim and processes that Shabbatai Tzvi and Yeshu were involved in. Absolutely. And you get hints of this, right? When you read the words of Jacob Frank, there's hints of him engaging in some very strong antinomian sexual acts. Again, he can do so because he's the Mashiach and he can break the klippa. Now, to go back to what you said earlier on Yeshu being the woman, so in ancient Gnostic, in the ancient Gnostic system, right, when you read that the Roman spear pierced Yeshu, Kabbalistically, the Roman spear represents the phallus, which then designates Yeshu as the pudendum. And again, in very ancient Christian art, you see lots of images where Yeshu is portrayed as a pudendum. You literally see these occult images of the pudendum, of the female pudendum, where he's literally being equated, with the pudendum. And again, it all goes back to the ancient Gnostics and very esoteric, mysteries, so to speak.
So you're referencing the Vesica Pisces, how many of the portrayals, the iconography, the icons, and the ancient times, they portrayed Yeshu within, basically inside of the Vesica Pisces, which
Correct. Yep, spot on. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so very interesting. And the Vesica Pisces, interestingly enough, I've heard, is also a symbol of the Jesus fish as well, which could possibly hint to this idea. Okay, so the follow. So you're saying, so now that we've established that for sure the Mashiach were engaged in these types of activities, and you've explained why they were engaged in these types of activities. These activities were not permissible for their followers, or was there like an inner circle and an outer circle? How exactly did that?
Yeah, so it's a very, you're right, you're getting at very, very subtle, very complex questions, right? So let's talk about Shabbatanism, right? There was a big debate and schism between Nathan of Gaza and Shabbatai Tzvi, right? Because Shabbatai Tzvi was very antinomian, right? He converted to Islam for the purposes of tikkun. He's descending to the Klipot, right? We have to, in the Lurianic Kabbalah is very clear that the function and purpose of the Mashiach ben Yosef is to descend into the Klipoth. He has to descend into the Klipoth for the purposes of tikkun. So somebody has to go into Islam, which is an entirely Kafathic religion, to redeem it and to repair it. Somebody has to do the dirty work. And who's the divine figure that's going to do all this dirty work to rectify and fix all that's wrong with this world? It's the Mashiach ben Yosef. And so one of the highest purposes of the Shabbatai Tzvi was to descend into the Klippa of Ishmael for the purposes of tikkun. And so there's a lot of, when you're going to descend, you have to understand that if you're going to descend into the Klipoth like Yeshu did, like we see with Yosef in Egypt, or with Jacob Frank, Shabbatai Tzvi, when you're going to descend into the Klipoth to do tikkun, you have to understand there's going to be a lot of antinomian activity that's going to have to take place here. There's no getting around it. It's a function of reality that to descend into the Klipoth to do tikkun is going to involve a lot of antinomian activity. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Okay. Jaime Tal goes very deep on this matter in a few places in his writings, and so there was a debate. Nathan of Gaza being close to a grandmaster, He understood the purpose and mission of Shabbatai Zvi, that it was very antinomian in nature, but there was a schism because Nathan of Gaza was like, okay, I understand, that Shabbatai Zvi, who's the Meshach, is doing all this antinomian stuff, but how does that relate to me and all of us Jews? Like, are we to also do it? Because there was a schism, because you had all of the disciples of Shabbatai Zvi were replicating the antinomian activity that Shabbatai Zvi was doing. And Nathan of Gaza has to ask the question: is this right? Can we also engage in this? Can we do this too? Is it okay for Jews to go and convert to Islam and start engaging in this antinomian activity that the Mashiach is doing? And Nathan of Gaza was very conservative. He was extremely conservative, and he took the approach that no, it's not okay. I'm not going to break the Torah. I'm going to be a holy Jew, and I'm not going to violate the Torah, and I'm going to stick to it. Right? And so, in that respect, Nathan of Gaza was very ignorant and uninitiated, and he didn't have a full holistic understanding of what was going on. Why is the Mashiach doing this? You have to have a full understanding, like, what is going on here. You're dealing with the highest of mysteries here. And so it's understandable that Nathan of Gaza didn't have a full understanding. But you have to understand, to what I said earlier, the Mashiach is God in the flesh. He has power. Now, if the Mashiach wants to give some of his power to someone else, can he do it? You would have to be stupid to say no. He's God in the flesh. He can do what he wants. If the Mashiach has 10 disciples and he wants to give them some of his power to them so they can start doing some of the things he's doing, he can do that. You see it in the New Testament with the disciples of Yeshu. All of a sudden, you see the disciples of Yeshu start doing all these crazy miracles like Yeshu. How did this happen? Because Yeshu gave some of his power to them. And so, yes, the Mashiach can give his power to you if he so chooses to, so you can become close to the level of the Mashiach and start being at his level. So if you want to engage in antinomian activities to his level, you can start doing that because you now have the power the Mashiach has. So do you understand what I'm saying, Yura?
Yes. So this was happening with Svi, and I would imagine, and so then the same thing would happen with Jakob Franken. And so their disciples, you were explaining earlier, spread out and formed in Europe and infiltrated some of these inner organizations. I would imagine you would be talking about, Freemasonry and other types of organizations that were around at the time. But correct?
Correct.
Okay, and so and you mentioned that the Golden Dawn was founded by a disciple of Jakob Frank, and that makes a lot of sense because McGregor Mathers used a copy of von Rosenroth's commentary from Latin regarding the Idras, the Zohar. So
that's a very powerful connection there, right? Because you knew that there's a connection. That's one of many proofs of the connection, right? Because the what's his name, von Rosenroth, the guy who translated the Idroth into Latin, he was a disciple and student of a Shabbatain grandmaster in Turkey. So that's one of the tentacles. So you can see when you get to the highest level, the highest mysteries, you can see the tentacles of how, you can see the Frankist and Shabbatain tentacles all over, the Eastern European secret orders,
So, and in the video, it talked about the nature of the homunculus. The OTO kind of developed this practice. I talked a little bit about Aleister Crowley, the OTO, and this. I played 2 clips in there where they were talking about the inception of these types of entities. And to give a little bit of preface, just real quickly before you take the time here, it was stated that Aleister Crowley essentially had written a book called Liber 333, and in the book there's 2 sections called the Star Ruby and Star Sapphire ritual, which is the 25th and 36th ritual, and they were the mystery of 5 and 6. And these 2 rituals, or in this Liber 333, this book of lies, was the reason why the OTO initially had contacted him, got a hold of him, and apparently had initiated him. And the name of the country right now is slipping my mind, but there's a specific country that was in existence at the time. It's no longer in existence. It was represented by a double-headed eagle. And this is apparently where their center of operation was. And so they made contact with him, and they initiated him into this secret order, which is Ordo Templi Orientis. And they explained to him the Star Ruby and Star Sapphire ritual because he had apparently inadvertently revealed one of their highest arcanum, and this had to deal with this kind of ritual ceremonial impregnation of spiritual entities. So, like, perhaps they were trying to manifest an incarnation of Ashmedai, so on and so forth. And so they were doing these types of practices, and of course then that came from there. And the understanding that I've understood regarding the matter is that these teachings as well were developed or somehow rooted into the Frankist and Sabbatian teachings some way. So I would that was a major part of the second video. So I would love to hear your opinion.
The highest levels of Frankism and Gnosticism have the complete full understanding of what these secret evil rituals are trying to accomplish and what's really going on, which no one has the full understanding. So I'm going to reveal it here for the first time. I probably shouldn't be revealing it because it's very secret, esoteric, but I've already in this video that we're doing here, I've already revealed some of the highest secrets that have never been revealed. They've never been fully revealed like they have here in this video ever. And other than in some of my writings, honestly, I don't even feel fully comfortable with a lot that I've revealed in this video. It's ridiculously crazy, off the charts, sublime. But I'm going to go ahead and reveal this mystery for the first time here. So what this mystery really is getting at is, if you are a very high level initiate and adept, and you've been properly initiated into the ancient mysteries of Gnosticism, veracious Gnosticism, right? You understand that in the most primordial of, we can't even speak of time. So when I say the most primordial, we're outside of time here because we're in the spirit realm. When we talk about Sophia and the great sin of Sophia, right? Sophia sinned. And I'm not going to get fully into the matter, but I'll tell you what happened as a result of Sophia's sin. Because of Sophia's sin, she became pregnant and she gave birth to a golem. Okay? So the god of this construct, who people call Lucifer or the devil, is really Yaldabaoth. The ancient Gnostics called him Yaldabaoth or Samael. He has many names. He goes by many names: Lucifer, the devil, Samael, Yaldabaoth. It's all the same figure, okay? And Sophia gave birth to him, and he was a golem. That's what he was. He was a golem, okay? And it was a sin. So we're talking about a clophathic process, a clophathic act that gave birth to a golem, who is Yaldabaoth or Samael, okay? So these evil people, the highest, most elite Luciferians, what they're trying to do, in essence, is replicate that sin, replicate that process, which is evil. What Sophia did was evil. She sinned, committed an evil act, sinned, and gave birth to a golem, an evil, monstrous entity. Now we have all these stupid, retarded, evil, elite, evil Luciferians who, by the way, they understand. There's only a handful of people that I can count on my fingers that know these mysteries that I'm revealing here, okay? They're trying to replicate this act in creating the golem, okay? And we read about this in the book of Revelation, because in the book of Revelation, it talks about that the image of the beast is going to come forth on this planet. And that's the creation of the golem. They're going to succeed. We're close to the point, or we're already at the point where they've already created the golem. And in our generation, this golem is going to come on the scene. He's going to be the image of the beast that the whole world's going to be commanded to worship. Everyone has to take the mark of the beast, which is coming very soon in our generation. The technology is already here. They already have it. Okay? It's a matter of time before they implement it. So that's what's going on here. That's the mystery. That's the real mystery. I've just revealed it for the first time here.
So that is a very profound correlation between what was going on with these types of impregnations and the concept of Sophia and the Yaldabaoth. That's very, very profound.
And there's a lot. There's a lot more mysteries behind this, and they're revealed in some of my recent Hebrew Aramaic publications. I'm not going to fully. It's a mystery of the highest order that it goes ridiculously crazy, profound, deep. The divine well here runs crazy deep, and I cannot reveal all these mysteries. I've just revealed some breadcrumbs and just the tip of the iceberg. What I've revealed here. So please understand this.
So we'll move on from that particular subject, and thank you for expounding on that. You mentioned earlier that the inner circle of the Sabbateans and the Frankists, they received this bestowal from the Mashiach, and they were able to also participate in the antinomian activities. And so, if I'm to understand exactly what you're saying properly, they were engaging in these antinomian activities because they were assisting with the tikkun via the breaking of the klipa, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and so how I would love to hear your opinion on how that correlates here into what we see currently today. We see, there's a lot of debauchery and things that are propagated, and we know that this inner order had infiltrated all these different secret societies, so on and so forth. Could you perhaps show or expound a lineage of how they got here to this day? I've also heard that the Hasidim were formed in part by a lot of these teachings. I'd love to hear your opinions on that.
Yeah, so before I get to that, so we have to understand the great arcanum as it's presented in the Lyrianic text, that the clippa precedes the fruit, right? So in this last generation, we're seeing all of this debauchery, right? We can see all the debauchery that's going on, and that's the clippa, right? Because there's two levels to what's happening, right? When the Mashiach ben David comes back, and the higher universes come down into this construct, right? And everything becomes permitted, everything's going to be okay, right? But right now it's not okay. And that's the klippa. All this debauchery is not okay. That's the klippa, which precedes the fruit, which is going to come very soon when the Mashiach comes back, and then everything will be okay. And then everything will be permitted and everything will be okay. I'm talking about how Hasiduth has its roots in Shabbatanism and Frankism is a very, very deep and wide subject. I will divert all the listeners to my blog. I have a number of blog posts that dive very deep into this matter. In fact, I will announce here that I plan to do a video with one of my senior chief disciples in Israel. I'm hoping to release the video in the next week or so, where he's going to go through all of the proofs and seals, showing very clearly how Hasiduth is rooted in Shabbatanism and Frankism. And I'm very excited about doing this video with him here in the next few days. So I would just advise all of you to come to my channel in the next week or so and hopefully watch that video, which I'm very excited about. And that will answer that question.
Okay, for sure. Yeah, I know you've done a couple of videos on, you mentioned how Rav Nachman of Breslov quotes the Turkey Prince, which is found in the words of Jakob Frank, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I have a whole hour and a half video that I did recently with all of the proofs and seals that Rab Nachman of Breslov was a full-blown Frankist Shabbatain. And I have other videos that I've done on the matter on that, and I have some blog posts, I think. So that's a very extensive matter that I have dived really balls deep into, showing and proving. And it's not just me. There's other scholars. One of the most famous scholars in Israel wrote a book or a paper on it. A lot of the proofs I just cited from his paper, so it's well known among a lot of elite circles that, yeah, Rabbi Nachman of Breslov was definitely a Frankish Shabbatain. It's the secret's out. You had to be really stupid or ignorant to not know this.
So this is very interesting. So, okay, so and I do want to hear your opinion on this. So you mentioned that Jakob Frank is Mashiach ben Yosef, and that there's a connection between Shabtai Tzvi and Asmodeus or Ashmedai. Would you care to expound on any of these connections?
Well, yeah. So you have essentially revealed the crazy arcanum. So I reveal in my treatise on Frankism that Shabbatai Tzvi he's a Gilgul or incarnation of Ashmodai. That no one fully understands who Ashmodai is, right? Everyone thinks that Ashmodai is an evil demon. Well, actually, he's a Jewish demon. If you read the Zohar in the very in the very esoteric Kabbalistic text, they will explicitly tell you that Ashmodai is a Jewish demon. He's not an evil demon. And Jakob Frank is, because he was the Mashiach, he was the only person that knew these mysteries. And so he reveals in his writings that Ashmodai is a very holy Jewish demon. He's so holy, in fact, that he worships Yeshu. He knows who Yeshu is, and he worships him. And he seeks to be like Yeshu. And that's why he incarnated into Shabbatai Zvi. Okay? And there's a lot of mysteries. I've said enough. I don't really want to say anymore, but I think I've said enough. So
there's a very interesting section in the Talmud that describes the interactions between Shlomo Melech and Ashmodai, and over there they mentioned that basically Ashmodai goes up to the heavenly yeshivot and studies there, and then he goes into the worldly yeshivot down here, and he's found in all of these different yeshivas. And also they mention how he basically didn't want to partake of being intoxicated by drinking, and so he would not drink, so they had to trick him into basically becoming intoxicated, by which they removed him from a tree, which I would imagine is a metaphor for the supernal tree.
You can see already in the Talmud, a very holy, powerful text. You can already see many hints. They're already giving you a lot of hints, like wink, wink, hint, hint. This is not an evil demon. Hello, right? I mean, most people don't know how to properly read the Talmud. When they read the Talmud, a lot of the secrets goes way over their heads, and that's just reality. I'm very impressed here. It's impressive that you were able to catch and see all that, as usual. So,
thank you. Well, going to today, in terms of our modern times. So essentially, what's happening here in the reality, if I'm to understand this correctly, is that these teachings, either directly or indirectly, I would imagine they first started off and were transmitted in very secret societies, and then, if I understand what you were saying, they fell into the hands of people that were not in the inner circle or not at those initiated levels, and they began to participate in these types of practices without being qualified to do so, I would imagine. And then this got propagated into trying to make this world like the other world before its time, if I'm understanding all of this correctly. And so the debauchery and things that we see in reality is essentially a push to try and force this to occur before its time.
Yeah, correct. I mean, it's not that people know these mysteries. They don't know what's going on. But nevertheless, even though the vast majority of people are clueless, ignorant, and have no idea what's going on, because humanity is essentially spiritual in nature, we all have spirits, where the spirit realm exists around us. And so through our spiritual nature, there's just this organic, natural push that wants to push us to, where we should be, the highest universe. A lot of spirits, right, come from the highest universes. A lot of spirits, when you read the Luriana Kabbalah, the Zohar talks about how the neshamot, the nefashot, the spirits, they fell into the klippa. But what's the origin and root of all the neshamot that fell into the klippa? Their root is in holiness, in the higher universes, right? And so a lot of these human beings, a lot of us have spirits from the highest universes. So we have this natural, organic inclination to return to our original abode, the highest universes, right? And that's why there's this natural inclination, organic push to push us into what we term as debauchery, but what in the higher universes is not really debauchery. You see what I'm saying, Yura?
So you're saying, so basically what you're saying is that the higher souls that are here in the reality naturally have an inclination to move towards these antinomian types of behavior, because they're rooted in the higher worlds, and inside of the higher worlds there are all of these types of zivugim between the partsufim, and so they're by natural order trying to reflect the root of where they had initially fallen from here. Yes,
exactly. Spot on. Exactly. Spot on, Yura. Spot on. We have a natural inclination to reflect and project where we originally came from, but unfortunately we're not able to because of the demiurge, right? The demiurge, in his great jealousy, has appropriated and projected a klippa and klipoth over this construct to prevent us from reaching the natural state that we originally came from. Do you see what I'm saying?
So that's a very explosive connection there. So what you're saying is that Yaldabaoth, the demiurge essentially, which was birthed when the sparks fell, you're saying that they fell down here, and Yaldabaoth created a klippa because he was jealous of being outside of the upper world where all of these types of activities are permitted. He was not a part of that, and therefore
Correct.
created a klippa to prevent the sparks that descended here from both returning or engaging in those original activities out of jealousy. Is that correct?
Correct. Absolutely. Spot on.
So that's explosive. So you're saying, so basically what you're saying, and this brings about a lot deeper understanding as to what you were talking about earlier regarding the klippa being the thing that prevents people from participating in these activities, that this klipothic force that prevents people from being in these activities was actually created by Yaldabaoth out of jealousy to prevent these sparks from returning and performing a type of
He does not want this construct to mirror the upper universes. And that's why he's imposed his klipoth over it. And that's why you get in trouble. So if you engage in homosexual activity, you're fucked. You're gonna have to stand before he's the god of this construct. You have to pass through him. And so you have to be careful with what you do. You have to be very careful. Because he, at the end of the day, he's the judge and he's the god, and you're gonna have to pass through him. And so if you're stupid enough to engage in homosexual activity, which is prohibited, you're gonna be fucked when you stand before him. It's not gonna be pretty. You're gonna go straight down to hell. Do not pass go. Do not enter the higher universes. Okay. So you gotta be very wise. You have to consider all this extraordinarily wisely, to say the least.
So, to summarize the theological understanding of the Frankists, at the highest level, they believe that all of the Partsufim are essentially in a orgy style of essentially what would be amounted to a celestial eternal sex, and that this sexual union occurs in between mother and son, and father and son, and mother and daughter, and father and daughter, etc., 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 and that this is explained through the various Partsufim. Now, all of these celestial orgies of sorts seem to have been occurring in the highest universe before Sophia gave birth to Yaldabaoth. And this is where the Gnostic understanding comes into play. It's important to understand that Frank also converted over to Catholicism, and so therefore there's a fusion of sorts in terms of the esoteric understanding. Now, to further flesh out the ideas, after Sophia gave birth to Yaldabaoth, sparks of this highest world fell down into the lowest world. And so these happen to be embodied in certain individuals, and that these individuals, which are essentially the chosen ones, have a natural inclination to these antinomian activities and to have these types of sexual interactions, so on and so forth, because it's a reflection of the highest world. And they explain that the reason why people are not able to have these types of sexual unions, an example between father and daughter, or son and father, or uncle, or however, is because the klipa prevents us from doing so. So the force that prevents a person from wanting to do such a type of activity is the klipa that prevents them from doing it. And their understanding is that because Yaldabaoth was not able to participate in these celestial orgies that were occurring in this higher universe, he formed the klipa to prevent those sparks of Sophia here in this reality from partaking in any of these types of activities. And so the Mashiachin, according to their understanding, are manifested in order to break the klipa. They break this klipa by performing this activity. So for example, Shabtai V having sex with this Arab boy as an example. And so the reason why they say that it was a tikkun is because this is morally inherently wrong, but their understanding is that what makes it morally inherently wrong is the klipa, and that this klipa, or this force that prevents a person from desiring to do this, was created by the demiurge, who was jealous of the celestial orgies that were happening in the highest universe that he did not partake in. So he created the klipa, or forces that prevent people down here from desiring to partake in these types of activities. Therefore, the Mashiachin were engaging with these types of activities, you know, having sex with children, apparently, having sex with, doing homosexual activities and so on and so forth, and having sex with family members, something that we see amongst the elite a lot. They were doing all of these activities as a way of breaking the klippa. So their theological understanding of breaking the klippa is that this refers to the person actually performing the activity, and through the action of performing the activity, they thus break the klipot around it, meaning the force that prevents a person from desiring to do such a thing. And they believe that the Mashiachin are God in the flesh, and that they have the ability to do this, and that this actually brings about a type of correction. They also believe that just as God is in the flesh under their understanding, that he can bestow this power to perform these types of antinomian activities to his disciples. And so essentially their disciples are also able to have sex with children and each other, and perform all types of antinomian activities, because in their theological worldview, they are breaking the klippa by doing things that are against the force that prevents them, because the force that prevents them from wanting to do this thing is the klippa. That's their understanding. And so this is also to a culmination of a messianic age. They believe that the future messianic age is when all of these things will be released, and people will be permitted to do everything, because under their understanding, the klippa will be removed, and thus the force that prevents people from wanting to participate in these types of activities, having sex with your dad and so on and so forth, will be lifted. And so in their worldview, this is the Tikkun Halam, this is the messianic age, the messianic redemption essentially will usher in to these types of realities, and a world where people can have sex with their parents and with their cousins and their family, and there's no ill behind it. So it's incredibly explosive, very deep, very rooted in Jewish Kabbalah and Gnosticism. Incredibly dangerous understandings here. So this video is probably without question the most esoteric deep dive into the cosmological understanding behind Frankism that has probably ever been done on this channel, and certainly on the internet.